Chapter 1. The Gift of Chains. The Nexus Bazaar was a sprawling hive of activity, an intergalactic crossroads where traders and smugglers, bounty hunters and diplomats, thrived amid the cacophony of languages, scents, and colors that made it the galaxy's most notorious market. Situated on a space station orbiting a barren, dead planet in the uncharted sectors, it was a place both feared and revered where fortunes were made, lost, and stolen in a heartbeat. Every shadowed corridor and neon-lit alley was thick with stories of desperation and ambition, and none knew better than Jaren Voss, a man whose past was as fractured as the station's ancient metal bones. Once a celebrated pilot famed for daring raids against pirate fleets, he had long since traded his starfighter for a quieter life as a trader, seeking refuge in the shadows of the bazaar's endless hustle. But that night, beneath the flickering glow of holographic signs and the endless murmur of countless voices, his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The chains clinked softly as the alien girl was paraded before a crowd of eager buyers and leering spectators. Her wrist shackles gleamed under the harsh artificial lights, and around her neck hung a collar inscribed with intricate symbols, ancient runes pulsating faintly with a cold, blue light that spoke of control, dominance, and despair. To many, she was just another commodity, an exotic prize from a distant world with flesh and blood to be claimed. But to Jaren, something deeper stirred, an instinct honed from years of loss and survival. The girl's eyes, sharp and calculating, flickered with a wild defiance that refused to be snuffed out despite the chains and the cruel circumstances. She was a prisoner, yes, but not a broken one, and as she met Jaren's gaze, there was a silent challenge in her look, a promise that she was far more than a gift or a possession. The transaction was swift and cold. The patron, a shadowy figure whose power stretched across multiple systems, handed Jaren the alien girl as a token of respect and as an unspoken test of trust. Many in the crowd murmured with speculation. Some whispered that Jaren was being set up, bound to the whims of powerful forces far beyond his reach. Yet, the man who accepted the chained girl did so with a steady hand and a mind racing with possibilities. Back aboard his ship, in the cramped confines that smelled of engine grease and stale air, Jaren examined the collar with a mix of fascination and disgust. The device was no ordinary restraint. It was a masterpiece of alien technology designed not only to bind but to suppress, to dominate the will and force obedience. The runes shimmered faintly, emitting a pulse that hinted at deadly consequences should its power be defied. But Jaren's life had taught him to challenge the impossible. His fingers traced the cold metal, searching for a weakness, a flaw in the design. Days turned into nights as he worked, unraveling the secrets encoded within the collar's complex mechanisms. Meanwhile, the alien girl, who had yet to reveal her name, remained silent but watchful, her guarded demeanor softening ever so slightly as she observed the man who refused to treat her as mere property. She was wary, her trust hard-earned and easily lost, but beneath her hardened exterior was a past filled with pain, betrayal, and a longing for freedom she had never tasted. The ship's sparse quarters became a crucible of change, a place where chains would be broken, not just of metal, but of fear and isolation. As the collar's grip loosened under Jaren's skilled hands, a transformation began not only in the alien girl, but in the man who had been gifted her. The bonds of captivity gave way to fragile trust, and the cold transaction of ownership blossomed into something unexpected, a partnership forged in shared hardship and a mutual yearning for redemption. In the quiet moments between danger and hope, the girl finally spoke, her voice a melody of unfamiliar words and fierce determination. She was not just a prisoner or a gift, she was a survivor, a warrior with secrets and strengths waiting to be unleashed. And Jaren, once resigned to a life of solitude and shadows, found himself drawn into a story far greater than he had ever anticipated, a story of breaking chains, embracing trust, and the unyielding power of the human heart intertwined with the fierce soul of an alien warrior. Days passed in a strange, uneasy rhythm aboard Jaren's ship, the Stellar Wind. The alien girl, still nameless to him, maintained a quiet vigilance, her gaze sharp and unreadable, as if weighing every moment, every word, every gesture. The collar around her neck pulsed faintly in the dim light of the ship's hold, a constant reminder of the chains that still bound her, chains of control and subjugation. Jaren's fingers often traced the cold metal, studying its design with the patience of a craftsman, seeking a way to dismantle the cruel device without triggering its deadly failsafes. He was a man shaped by conflict and survival, and though the galaxy had thrown many burdens onto his shoulders, none felt as heavy as this one. The weight of responsibility, of hope, and the fragile trust kindling between two unlikely souls. The alien girl observed Jaren with cautious curiosity. Her past was a tapestry of broken promises and bitter lessons captured from a distant world ravaged by war, sold into slavery by those who saw her not as a person, but as property. She had learned to survive by hiding the fierceness within, by cloaking her pain behind cold walls and calculated silence. Yet, as days slipped into nights and the ship hummed its steady lullaby through the void, the cold armor around her heart began to crack. Jaren's refusal to treat her as a possession, his steady hands working tirelessly to free her, was unlike anything she had ever known. It stirred something long buried, a flicker of hope, the possibility of freedom not just in body but in spirit. One quiet evening, under the faint glow of distant stars filtering through the viewport, Jaren finally succeeded. The collar's runes dimmed as the last locking mechanism gave way, the metal falling away with a soft clink that echoed like a liberation song. The alien girl's eyes widened not with fear, but with a fierce, unspoken gratitude. The moment was heavy with unspoken words, a fragile connection forged in silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was both soft and resolute, a melody of foreign syllables and strength. She told him her name Lyra and shared fragments of her story, a warrior princess betrayed by her own people, sold to pay debts that were not hers to bear, and chained not just by metal, but by the weight of betrayal. In that moment, Jaren realized this gift was no mere token, it was a beginning. Together, they would face the galaxy's shadows, breaking chains and forging new paths. Chapter 2. Unshackled Bonds. Freedom, however, was a double-edged sword. The chains that had bound Lyra physically were gone, but the invisible chains of fear, mistrust, and trauma lingered like ghosts in the corners of her mind. She moved through the ship's corridors with a wary grace, every step a negotiation between caution and curiosity. Jaren watched her with a growing sense of admiration and protectiveness, understanding that her journey to reclaim not just her body, but her identity was just beginning. Their days were filled with cautious conversations and shared silences, moments of tentative connection woven through the vast emptiness of space. The stellar wind became more than a ship, it became a sanctuary where two broken souls began to heal. Lyra's strength was not just in her fierce eyes or lithe form, but in the resilience that had carried her through the darkest nights. She trained daily, honing skills long dormant beneath layers of captivity, martial arts from her homeworld, tactics learned through survival, and the raw determination that defined her spirit. Jaren, once a solitary man haunted by ghosts of battles past, found himself drawn into this transformation. Together, they sparred beneath the harsh lights of the ship's training bay, their movements a dance of trust and respect. With each strike and parry, barriers fell, and an unspoken bond grew, one forged not by ownership but by choice, not by chains but by shared strength. Yet the galaxy beyond their ship was no sanctuary. Rumors of their alliance spread swiftly through the underworld, a human and a freed alien warriors standing together against powerful enemies. The forces that had traded in slaves and subjugation saw them as threats, sending bounty hunters and assassins to silence their rising light. Danger became a constant companion, sharpening their senses and binding them ever closer. In the quiet moments between battles, Lyra and Jaren shared stories of loss and hope, their pasts interweaving like threads in a tapestry of survival. The gift that had come with chains had become a catalyst for freedom, a testament to the power of breaking bonds and embracing the unexpected. The days that followed the breaking of Lyra's collar were a slow and delicate dance between freedom and fear, trust and hesitation. Though the physical chains were gone, the scars etched deep within her mind whispered reminders of the pain and betrayal she had endured. Every shadow seemed to carry a threat, every unfamiliar touch a potential wound. She wandered the halls of the stellar wind like a cautious predator, eyes scanning, muscles tense, always ready to defend the fragile new life she had been thrust into. Yet, alongside the vigilance was a flicker of something foreign but welcome curiosity. For the first time in years, Lyra glimpsed a future unshackled by slavery. A future where she was more than a possession, more than a prize, more than a weapon forged by others' cruelty. Jaren saw this struggle in her gaze and met it with patience and quiet strength. He did not rush her, did not demand loyalty or affection. Instead, he offered her space to heal and the unwavering promise that she would never again be chained by metal or by fear. Their days together began to take shape, defined by small routines that carried immense weight. Mornings spent repairing the ship's damaged systems. Afternoons in the training bay where Lyra's skills resurfaced like a tidal wave, graceful, deadly, honed through pain and perseverance. Jaren watched as she wielded alien blades and human firearms alike. Her movements fluid yet forceful, a testament to the strength lying beneath her delicate appearance. Each session was not just about honing combat prowess. It was a reclamation of self, a defiance against the years spent in subjugation. Between drills and repairs, they shared fragments of their lives, Jaren's tales of starfighter battles and lost comrades, Lyra's whispered memories of a lost kingdom and shattered trust. Their bond deepened, not through grand declarations, but through moments of shared silence and unspoken understanding. The void of space around them faded as the space between their souls began to close. But freedom's light casts long shadows, and the galaxy was far from forgiving. News of a freed alien warrior traveling with a human former mercenary no less spread like wildfire through the darker corners of the star systems they traversed. The powerful who thrived on fear and control marked them as targets, sending assassins cloaked in darkness and bounty hunters eager to claim the hefty rewards placed on their heads. Each attack was a brutal reminder that the chains of slavery were not just metal bindings, but a web of power and corruption that stretched across stars and empires. Yet, with every ambush, every narrow escape, Lyra and Jaren's trust in each other grew stronger. They learned to fight not only as individuals, but as a seamless unit, their strengths complementing and shielding one another. The fire that once threatened to consume them alone now burned brighter as a shared flame, illuminating their path through the darkness. In the quiet hours, when the ship's hum was the only sound and the stars stretched infinitely beyond the viewport, Lyra allowed herself to hope, to dream, to imagine a life beyond survival, a life of freedom, choice, and perhaps even belonging. She embraced the warmth of Jaren's presence, a shelter from the storm that had ravaged her past. And Jaren, who had once walked through the galaxy burdened by solitude and regret, found in her a companion who challenged him, healed him, and awakened a part of his soul he had thought lost. Together, they began to write a new story, one where chains were broken and hearts were embraced. The passage of time aboard the stellar wind was marked by small victories and silent struggles. Each day, Lyra reclaimed a piece of herself that the chains had tried to steal away, while Jaren found in her presence a purpose that transcended his lonely existence. The ship's dim corridors and cramped quarters became a sanctuary where trust slowly blossomed, nurtured by shared battles and quiet moments under the cold light of distant stars. Lyra's movements grew less guarded, her eyes softer yet no less fierce, and the weight of her past began to lift, replaced by a tentative hope that perhaps she was no longer just a chained alien girl, but something more, a partner, a warrior, a friend. Jaren, too, transformed in ways neither had expected. His gruff exterior softened as he opened himself to vulnerability, learning to care not out of obligation, but out of genuine connection. Together, they explored the mysteries of the galaxy, old legends and forgotten histories whispered in starport taverns, and the silent beauty of nebulae and binary suns. Their bond deepened beyond words, forged in the crucible of survival and the promise of freedom. Yet the galaxy was unforgiving, and shadows from their past crept ever closer. Slavers, mercenaries, and bounty hunters haunted their trail, drawn by the prize of reclaiming what was lost or exacting cruel revenge. Each encounter was a test of their resolve, and a reminder that breaking free was only the first step in a far larger fight. Despite the dangers, Lyra and Jaren faced the future hand in hand, their strengths intertwined like the stars that guided them. They built a life not defined by chains or captivity, but by choice and courage. The gift that was meant to bind became the bond that set them free. Chapter 3: The Price of Freedom. The stellar wind cut through the void toward the Outer Rim territories, where lawlessness thrived and the echoes of ancient conflicts lingered like ghosts. It was in these uncharted sectors that Lyra and Jaren sought allies, rebels, and outcasts who dared to challenge the tyranny of slave traders and corrupt warlords. The quest for freedom was no longer personal. It had become a cause that resonated across star systems, a spark that could ignite a revolution. Yet, the price of this path was steep. Every victory demanded sacrifice, every alliance forged in the crucible of conflict tested by betrayal and loss. The galaxy was a harsh judge, and freedom a prize won with blood and unyielding will. Lyra's leadership blossomed amidst these trials. She was no longer just the alien girl who had been gifted in chains. She was a warrior queen rising from the ashes of oppression, inspiring those who had suffered to stand and fight. Her reputation spread like wildfire, tales of a chained girl broken free, who now led daring raids against slaver fleets and freed thousands from bondage. Jaren stood beside her, not just as a protector or companion, but as an equal in the struggle, their fates irrevocably entwined. Together, they navigated the treacherous politics of rebel factions and warlords, weaving a fragile tapestry of trust and power. But with each step forward, the shadows lengthened. Enemies old and new sought to crush their rebellion, and the cost of freedom weighed heavily on their shoulders. Friends fell, sacrifices mounted, and the line between victory and defeat blurred. Yet, in the face of overwhelming odds, Lyra and Jaren pressed onward unbroken, unbowed, and united by a bond forged not in chains, but in courage and love. The farther they ventured into the lawless Outer Rim, the more evident it became that the fight for freedom was not merely against slavers, but against a galaxy steeped in cruelty, corruption, and apathy. The rebels and outcasts they sought were scattered, fractured by fear and despair, their spirits weighed down by centuries of oppression. Yet, when Lyra's name reached them, a symbol of defiance born from broken chains, it sparked a flame long thought extinguished. The stellar wind became a beacon, drawing desperate souls yearning for salvation and warriors eager to reclaim their honor. The ragtag crew that gathered around Lyra and Jaren was a tapestry of alien species and hardened humans, each with their own scars and stories, united under the banner of freedom. Together, they began to strike at the very heart of the slaver networks, disrupting shipments, liberating prisoners, and dismantling supply chains with fierce precision. But every victory exacted a toll. The Dominion and its allied warlords responded with brutal retaliation raids on liberated worlds, assassinations of rebel leaders, and mercenaries unleashed with orders to crush the uprising by any means necessary. The war became a brutal game of survival where trust was scarce and danger lurked in every shadow. Lyra bore witness to the cost firsthand. Comrades who had stood beside her fell in ambushes, innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, and allies betrayed by those who sought power over justice. Each loss etched deeper lines on her face and steeled her resolve. The fierce warrior who once hid behind silence now roared with the fury of a storm, leading strikes with a calculated ferocity born of grief and determination. Jaren was her anchor steady, unwavering, reminding her of the hope beyond the carnage. Amidst the chaos, their bond deepened into something neither had dared to name, but both felt in the quiet moments, the shared glance before battle, the unspoken reassurance in the dark, and the growing warmth in a galaxy so often cold. They became not just comrades in arms, but kindred spirits, each the other's shield and refuge in a universe that had shown them little mercy. Together, they envisioned a future where chains were shattered not just for themselves, but for every soul enslaved under the Dominion's iron grip. Yet, as their rebellion grew, so too did the enemies who would see them crushed. The final confrontation loomed, a battle not only for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy itself. The rebellion's path was littered with heartbreak and hard-earned victories. each battle carving deeper into the Dominion's oppressive empire, but exacting a toll that weighed heavily on Lyra and Jaren alike. Their forces were a motley coalition, freedom fighters from forgotten planets, former slaves hungry for justice, and seasoned mercenaries who had chosen purpose over profit. They moved like shadows, striking swift and vanishing before overwhelming retaliation could follow. Yet, the Dominion's reach was vast, and their wrath merciless. Ambushes shattered the quiet of space, and entire outposts loyal to the rebellion were wiped out in moments of brutal reprisal. Lyra bore the scars of every loss, every sacrifice. Friends who had become family vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving behind echoes of sorrow and burning resolve. Her heart hardened but did not close. The fire within grew fiercer, fueled by grief and the unyielding desire to break every chain that bound her people. Jaren, ever her steadfast companion, was the calm within the storm. Where Lyra's fury blazed, his calculated mind mapped their next move. He was the tactician to her warrior, the shield to her spear. Together, they became a force unstoppable in its conviction, inspiring hope in the desperate and fear in the oppressors. Their bond, forged in shared battles and quiet nights beneath alien skies, was the silent heartbeat of the rebellion. In stolen moments aboard the stellar wind, they found solace in one another, a refuge from the chaos surrounding them. But even in these fleeting respites, the knowledge loomed that the final confrontation with the Dominion was inevitable. The war that had begun as a spark threatened to engulf entire star systems, and only through unyielding courage and sacrifice could the flame of freedom endure. Chapter 4: Embrace of Freedom. The final battle was not fought in open space, but within the Dominion's fortress world, a desolate planet scarred by centuries of exploitation and the iron fist of tyranny. The rebellion's forces, though outnumbered and outgunned, advanced with the desperation of those who had nothing left to lose but their chains. Lyra led the charge, her presence a beacon of hope and defiance. Every step forward was a testament to the countless lives crushed beneath the Dominion's heel, and every strike she landed was a promise of liberation to those still shackled. The ground trembled beneath the clash of warriors, the sky burned with the fire of starships locked in deadly ballet. The Dominion fought with fanatical devotion, but the spirit of the rebellion, embodied by Lyra and Jaren, could not be broken. In the heart of the fortress, where the chains had been forged and enforced, Lyra faced the final test. Confronted by the Dominion's commander, a cruel tyrant who saw her as nothing more than a trophy to be reclaimed, she drew strength from every wound, every memory of suffering transformed into power. The battle was fierce, a dance of blades and wills, but when Lyra shattered the commander's weapon and stood victorious, the chains of oppression began to fall. The prison gates opened, and the captives freed by her hand embraced the dawn of a new era. Among the cheers and tears, Jaren stepped forward and broke the last collar that bound Lyra, a symbol not only of her freedom, but of their unbreakable bond. In the quiet aftermath, as the stars shone brighter over a galaxy forever changed, Lyra embraced Jaren not as a captive to a master, but as a partner, a friend, and something deeper born from shared trials and triumphs. The chains they had broken were not just metal and magic, but the invisible bonds of fear and isolation. Together, they looked to the horizon, knowing that while the fight for freedom never truly ends, they would face whatever came with courage and unity. The gift of a chained alien girl had become the beginning of a legend, one of broken collars, embraced hearts, and a future forged by those who dared to defy the darkness. The fortress world lay in ruins, its once imposing spires shattered and crumbling beneath the weight of rebellion and justice. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of spent energy weapons, yet amid the devastation, a new sound rose, a chorus of voices unchained, singing songs of hope, freedom, and renewal. Lyra stood amidst the liberated, her gaze sweeping over faces marked by pain but alight with the fire of newfound liberty. Each liberated soul was a victory carved from the darkest shadows of oppression, and every step forward was a step toward healing wounds inflicted by centuries of slavery and tyranny. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders, but it was tempered by the knowledge that she was not alone. Jaren was there, steadfast, unwavering, his presence a beacon of strength and companionship that had carried her through the darkest nights. In the quiet moments following the storm, the two stood together on a ridge overlooking the vast horizon of stars. The collar that had once bound Lyra lay broken at her feet, a shattered relic of a past she refused to be defined by. Jaren reached out, his hand steady as he helped her to her feet, their eyes meeting in a silent conversation that spoke volumes. It was not the chains that had forged their bond, but the courage to break them, the choice to embrace freedom not just as individuals, but as partners in a galaxy that was slowly learning to heal. Their embrace was a testament to that journey, a fusion of strength and vulnerability, of past scars and future promise. In that moment, beneath the endless canvas of stars, they found something rare and precious, a home in each other's arms and a shared purpose that would carry them forward. The rebellion they sparked spread like wildfire across star systems, inspiring countless others to rise against oppression and reclaim their destinies. Lyra and Jaren became legends not for the battles they fought alone, but for the hope they embodied, a reminder that even the darkest chains could be shattered by the unyielding will to be free. The galaxy was far from perfect, its scars still visible beneath the new dawn, but the promise of a better future burned brighter than ever before. Together, they sailed into that future, warriors and lovers bound not by chains but by choice, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage, compassion, and unbreakable unity. Chapter 5: Beyond the Chains. The war was over, but the path ahead stretched wide and uncertain like the star-streaked void beyond the stellar wind's hull. Lyra and Jaren stood side by side in the ship's observation lounge, watching distant nebulae glow with new colors, a cosmic tapestry that seemed to mirror the change coursing through their lives. The galaxy had shifted on its axis, its cruel order upended by rebellion and sacrifice. Yet, rebuilding was a different kind of battle, one that demanded patience, compassion, and the courage to face ghosts both old and new. Lyra, once defined by chains and captivity, now wore freedom like armor, not a shield from pain, but a promise to herself and those she had freed. Together with Jaren, she traveled from system to system, offering aid to war-torn worlds, helping heal the scars of slavery and conflict. Her presence was both a balm and a warning. The price of freedom was eternal vigilance. The former slave warrior became a leader, a symbol of hope and resilience, teaching others to break their own chains, whether forged of metal, fear, or doubt. Jaren, no longer just a pilot or a man haunted by the past, found a new purpose in building bridges between species, cultures, and hearts. His bond with Lyra had transformed him, teaching him that strength came not from solitude, but from connection. Together, they navigated political intrigues and rebuilt shattered alliances, their partnership a living testament to the power of trust and love born in the crucible of hardship. But the galaxy was vast, and shadows lingered. Dark forces, remnants of the old regimes, and new threats lurking in forgotten sectors, tested their resolve. The chains might have been broken, but the fight for justice and peace was never-ending. Yet, with hands intertwined and hearts united, Lyra and Jaren faced the future unafraid. They were not just survivors of a broken past, they were architects of a new dawn, champions of a freedom hard-won and fiercely guarded. And as stars shimmered eternal beyond their window, they knew one truth above all: freedom was not a destination, but a journey one they would walk together, forever unbound. The galaxy's whispers still carried tales of Lyra and Jaren, legends born from broken collars and embraced hearts. But beyond the myths and victories lay the painstaking work of true freedom, a reconstruction not only of worlds, but of spirits. Lyra stood amidst communities scarred by slavery's long shadow, listening to stories of loss and resilience, teaching survivors to reclaim their identities beyond chains and captors. Her presence was a living testament to transformation, a warrior who had been a prisoner now a protector and guide. Jaren's steady hand helped build networks of trust between fractured factions, negotiating peace where gunfire once roared. Together, they forged a fragile new order where freedom was more than absence of chains, it was justice, dignity, and belonging. Yet freedom's path was far from smooth. Old enemies stirred in the dark, remnants of the Dominion, and other ruthless factions scheming to reclaim lost power. Pirates exploited the chaos, and political rivalries threatened fragile alliances. Lyra and Jaren found themselves navigating not just battlefields but treacherous diplomacy, their bond tested by the harsh realities of leadership. Each victory was tempered by sacrifice. Each moment of peace was shadowed by the looming threat of new wars. But through it all, their unity remained unshaken, their love a beacon against the encroaching night. In the quiet moments, away from the weight of rebellion and responsibility, Lyra and Jaren dreamed aloud of worlds healed, of children playing free under alien suns, of a future they could shape hand in hand. The galaxy was still vast, still wild and unpredictable, but they faced it with hearts unbound, warriors not just of war, but of hope. Chapter 6: Legacy of Light. Years passed, and the echoes of the rebellion matured into the foundations of a new era. The Stellar Wind was no longer merely a ship of war, but a symbol of enduring hope that sailed from system to system, carrying ambassadors of freedom and peace. Lyra's name became synonymous with courage and compassion, inspiring new generations to rise beyond their pasts. She trained warriors and leaders, nurturing the spark of rebellion into a blaze that could never be extinguished. Jaren, once a lone pilot haunted by ghosts, was now a statesman and a father figure to many, his wisdom guiding the fragile peace that had been won through blood and sacrifice. Together, they watched as planets long shackled by oppression bloomed with life and culture, their people reclaiming lost histories and forging new destinies. The scars of the past remained, but so did the lessons etched in them, lessons of resilience, unity, and the indomitable power of choice. Their journey, born from chains and struggle, had transcended into a legacy of light that promised a future shaped by those who dared to break free. As the twin suns of a distant world set over horizons painted with hope, Lyra and Jaren stood side by side, their hands intertwined. The galaxy was vast and ever-changing, but their bond was eternal, a testament that even in the darkest voids, love and freedom could rise, unshackled and unyielding. The years had folded into decades, and the galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. What once was a fragile rebellion had blossomed into a movement that reshaped stars and civilizations alike. Lyra and Jaren, now legends whispered across systems, continued their mission not from a throne or command deck, but among the people whose lives they had fought to reclaim. Their presence was a reminder that freedom was not a fleeting victory, but an ongoing responsibility, a flame to be tended with vigilance and love. Lyra's gaze often drifted toward the children of liberated worlds, younglings running free under skies untainted by fear or oppression. She saw in their laughter the promise of a future that could finally be unburdened by chains, where choice and hope were birthrights rather than dreams. She taught these children not just how to wield a weapon or defend themselves, but the deeper strength of empathy, resilience, and unity. Her legacy was not built on conquest alone, but on the quiet power of healing broken hearts and mending shattered communities. Jaren, once a solitary man haunted by ghosts, had become a pillar of wisdom and compassion. His journeys spanned the galaxy, mediating disputes and forging alliances among former enemies. He understood better than most that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. Together, he and Lyra navigated the complex tapestry of galactic politics and culture, their partnership a beacon guiding countless others toward a shared destiny of freedom. In the quiet moments far from the eyes of admirers and the weight of leadership, they found solace in each other's arms. Their bond, born in chains and strengthened in battle, was a sanctuary where past wounds healed and future hopes blossomed. They had embraced the galaxy's vastness together, and in doing so, had forged a legacy that would outlast stars. As twin suns dipped below alien horizons, casting long golden shadows over lands once ruled by darkness, Lyra and Jaren stood side by side, looking toward an endless sky. The stars above sparkled like the countless souls freed by their courage, their light a testament to what could be achieved when chains are broken and hearts are opened. The galaxy was theirs not as conquerors, but as guardians of freedom, love, and hope.